Hey, this is Billy Childs from Brittany Fox, and you're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 8, Episode 12. I am here with my co-host, the Philadelphia heavy metal stunt coordinator, Chris Natalini.
Yeah, what's going on?
And I am Mick Michaels, his sidekick. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. I'm like Robin, you know what I mean?
But Robin was
shorter.
Cool, man.
Well, I don't know. The Burt Ward Robin, was he really cool? I'm not sure.
Yes, absolutely he was. Come on, he turned into Nightwing, bro. Come on.
Well, not the Burt Ward one, did he?
Well, no, that's true, not the Burt Ward. No, Burt Ward was cool, man. Come on.
All right, I don't know. Maybe. I was actually watching something that somebody was talking about, the Batman show, that one from the 60s, and he says, I grew up watching it in the 70s on rerun. He goes, even as a kid, I knew it was bad. He goes, and then watching it as an adult, he goes, it's really bad.
It's really bad, but it's so fun, man.
I could sit and watch it, though. I mean, you kind of accept that. It was that time,
Yeah.
It was that era, it was that little whatever. But listen, I grew up watching it in the 70s, so did you.
Absolutely.
It carried over into the 80s. And
Of
I
course.
watched the series through along with the Green Hornet with my son when he was growing up.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he enjoyed it, knew it was campy. There was an element of, making jokes about it, having fun. But we looked forward to it because it was kind of that thing to do. Sometimes things are so bad, they're good.
Oh, come on,
Right?
man. Absolutely.
But there was something about it, even today, because people still reference it. It was
Yeah.
definitely, I know it has nothing to do with music, but he had the bat dance, and didn't he have a bat guitar or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. The Bat Dance, definitely. Listen, man, if anything, as I got older, when my body started to change, Julie Newmar and what was her name, Batgirl? Yvette Craig, I think her name was. Come on, man. I mean, that's... Oof. They were
Oh, yeah.
women.
You take the show in that regard, you had a lot of old Hollywood guest stars, right?
Dude,
And I remember
Cesar
reading...
Romero?
Oh, my
Come
God,
on.
Cesar Romero. To me, still one of the best Jokers. I mean, Nicholson was really good, too, don't get me wrong, but I love Cesar
Dude,
Romero.
Cesar Romero was such a badass. He wouldn't shave his mustache.
I know.
They put white paint over it. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
That's hardcore, bro. That's legit Hollywood right there.
Those major villains from that TV show, I think, still hold up. I don't think there's one villain, besides maybe Nicholson, that stands out in the more modern adaptations of Batman. And that's, from the late 80s on. I still think Burgess Meredith as the Penguin was just... And again, these were true, in my opinion, true representations of the comics of that time or within the 10 years previous.
Yes.
Like real comic-like, and I think that's probably what was so alluring about the show. But anyway, I read an article years ago that stars were clamoring to get on that show to be a villain. I mean, you had Vincent Price as Egghead.
I mean, dude, come on.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do, man. I do. And even talking about Julie Newmar, you had two other Catwomans. What was her name? Lee Merriweather, and then you had Eartha Kitt.
Eartha Kitt.
I mean, and at that time they were huge actresses. I mean, they were known people. And Frank Gorham, who was Riddler. I mean,
Riddler.
It's amazing to me. And I don't know if you ever read Adam West's book. I think it was called Back to the Batcave. And in that book, it's an old book. I read it many, many years ago. He says how these Hollywood celebrities, as campy as the show was, that they were clamoring to be on because it was such a thing. It was such a thing to be on.
You know what's funny? I mean, you think about that. Adam West had a career before Batman, right? Of course.
Yes.
And that campiness didn't happen till Batman. And the same thing with William Shatner. He had this career that was building up before Star Trek. And then both of those shows for both of those actors changed the course of their career, skyrocketed them to the top, but then at the same time dropped them like harder than anybody.
Yes.
Right? Actually, I think Adam West probably had a harder time because he wore tights than William Shatner did, even though, William Shatner had a bit of a lull most of the 70s. I mean, he was popping up in places. I know he was on the $6 Million Man. I think he did Kojak, Columbo, popping up here and there. But I know he was struggling in terms of, to keep his career alive. And I know that with Adam West, he had a little resurgence, so to speak, when they did that Challenge of the Super Friends in the late 70s.
Yes,
and that the New Adventures of Batman and Robin, both him and Burt Ward lent their voice to it. And the funny thing about that is, on CBS, they had that show, and then on ABC, they had the Super Friends. You know what I mean? So there was two competing Batmans, completely different. That was a whole thing, too, where they couldn't use some of the same villains. They were only allowed to use certain ones, and they even made up some brand new ones that never were in the comic, just to kind of set themselves apart. Anyway, but it has nothing to do with music again. But
the show is about celebrities, so we're kind of working into. Let me tell you, I have a quick question for you while we're on this subject, and then we can move on. And I didn't really watch Star Trek as a kid. Was Star Trek, Shatner Star Trek, the original Star Trek, was that campy as Batman was? It wasn't, was it? Or it didn't lead itself to me?
Well, not the same way. Not as it almost seemed like so. Batman spoofed on itself, with the bam, wow, bang, it was very comic book laden. The colors were bright and stuff like that. I don't think that Star Trek, the original series, set out with the idea of being campy. It became campy, one, because of Shatner's delivery, the special effects. And you're hard-pressed now to, unless you own them, the original series, they had redone a lot of the special effects over the last number of years and re-released them. So they have new ships, new special effects were added. They're kind of cool. They've been re-edited to accommodate some of those special effects. But those original special effects, well, it was 1960 whatever, and so it wasn't that great. But yeah, it became a campy thing, but not in the same way, but it falls in that vein. But I think what set it apart is once it went to a major motion picture, again, the special effects in the Star Trek The Motion Picture were extremely extraordinary compared to the television show. And then, I should say that Shatner did have, and so did the cast and crew, they did have a small resurgence when the animated series came out in the 70s. Which I remember. Oh, okay. And then there was that toy line that came out with the large Mego dolls. There was a clamoring. By that time, those conventions started really surging. And people wanted something. And then Star Wars comes out and Paramount goes, we have this property, let's do something. So that's what they did. And it pretty much dominated a lot of the sci-fi throughout the 80s, even into the 90s. Because then you had the new TV shows and it kept going and going. And still, they just released Starfleet Academy, which I'm not a fan of at all. But a lot of the new shows that they have, except for Strange New Worlds, I think that was fantastic. And unfortunately, they're only doing 5 seasons of it. So
yeah, I do.
Lower Decks was good too. It started out a little slow, but it got better. And that, that had that campiness to it. But that was a play on itself, in my opinion. But I thought it did really well. Anyway, who cares? It's not music.
You did. No, you did say that. You did say that you did like the show, but it started out slow. You did say that.
Anyway.
It's Russ the Boss.
Take it down.
Johnny D from Brittany Fox.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
What's going on with you, man? Anything else besides campy and Star Trek and Batman and Robin? I remember in '89, you and I and a couple other people, we went to the midnight showing of, Michael Keaton's Batman. I remember that. I remember standing in line.
Yeah,
that's
man,
how far you and I go back, especially
right,
our,
man.
Even our love of Batman. Batman was always my favorite superhero.
Mine too.
Because he was a regular guy. Well, he was rich.
Yes.
He was definitely regular in my neighborhood. But anyway, it was all skill-based, right? Skill, and of course, let me throw some money at this to get a gadget. But he didn't have superpowers. I know a lot of people.
His biggest thing was his brain.
His biggest thing was his bank account, but then his brain. And then his brain.
That movie,
that was awesome, man.
Oh, so good. Man.
I remember that summer, and again, I know now we're, again, still not music, but nostalgia. I remember that summer. It was like literally the summer of Batman. It was everywhere, dude. Everywhere. You knew what was hot. You go down to the beach, you go down to Wildwood, and it's everywhere on the board. You couldn't get past it.
Yes.
You couldn't get past it. You were so excited. You bought the first T-shirt. You did about 5 steps forward, and you found that it was $10 cheaper at the next store, but it's too late.
I'm telling you, man, until you walk into a store with toys and posters, and let me tell you, here you go. I can bring this back to music. That Prince soundtrack,
yeah,
it's perfect.
Yeah, it was a good movie, man. It was a good movie. Believe it or not, I still have the shirt. Even from the second movie, I remember when McDonald's did all their stuff. I still have fry boxes and Happy Meal things. They're all preserved and all because I was a collector. And there were some of the things that I decided to hold on to, even now. They're probably not worth a dime, but it doesn't matter. It's just kind of like... Because we went through some stuff a couple years ago. My wife goes, why don't you get rid of this? I go, what are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
That is every household with a wife. Because I have the same issues.
She's like, go on. This is going. Finally, some things I get to the point, I go, you know what? I don't even want to look at it. Just throw it out. Get rid of it now.
Just get rid of it, yeah.
Because if I look at it, you know what's happening. Just get rid of it. Or I get so angry, I get tired of hearing it. So it's just I start throwing stuff out the door at like 1 a.m. in the morning. All right, that what we want? We're getting rid of it.
It's so true, brother.
Can't handle it.
So true.
I was a toy collector. I was a collectible collector type of thing, little things like that. I don't do that much anymore. I stopped it years ago. I actually sold a lot of my stuff. I did that for a number of years, which, I made decent money on it, but nothing. And you never get what you think you're going to get. Like those stories that, somebody paid $6 million for a little figure or something, they're far and few between, and usually that person that paid the $6 million probably usually regrets it. But I never got that lucky. But I did make some money back on stuff. I never lost any money, but I never made big money that I could put my kids through college. Unfortunately, I still had to work and then do a podcast in my basement.
Yeah, like I always tell my wife, I always go, listen, it's because I calmed down on my collecting also within the past couple of years. Because my wife always goes, well, if this is worth something, sell it. And I go, it's only worth something to the people that are willing to pay that price, right? Like, I could put it on eBay or Marketplace, whatever, and like you said, I'm not going to get probably what it's worth, if it's worth anything up to, in this point, 2026. That stuff's just not worth anything anymore.
My love of Batman continues today. Like, just in my studio alone, I have probably about, I'm just looking around, I know you can't see it, but I literally probably have a couple hundred Batman vehicle replicas of different sizes, a lot of Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels seems to be releasing something constantly. I still pick them up. I still buy Hot Wheels. I mean, sometimes I go into the dollar store because they'll have the previous year's stuff in there, and I'll go through them, and I put them on the thing. Oh, you're buying them for your kid? I go, yeah, for my kid.
I have to say, when I go to a store and I see Hot Wheels, I always kind of scour the... the rack, because in case I ever see a Batman, because I know you collect the Batman.
I have doubles because sometimes I go in and I go, I don't know if I have this one. And then I come home and I find out I got 5 of them because I done the same thing. But I actually, and believe it or not, just a few months ago, I was looking at a set of the same cars, all packaged the exact same way, just mistakes. Because I go, I can't remember if I have this or not. So I go, I better buy it. I buy it. Anyway, so I'm looking at all of them, and I'm going, something looks different here. Like, I never really spent the time looking at these, because I go, I just bought this one. I got, like, the Indiana Jones matchboxes. I must have, like, 16 of the motorcycle. Like, how can I forget that I bought a motorcycle? But I do. It's, again, getting hit in the head too many times. But anyway, I'm looking at it, and I'm going, oh, my God, this one is different. It has different mag wheels. Same packaging, but different mag wheels. I go, either that's a mistake, or I just picked up the mint one. So I put that in a special location. Yeah, it's just stupid silliness, I mean, basically, in my studio now, I have a big shelf of all my Kiss figurines. Because a couple years back, I went on a tangent of like, you know what? I'm just going to start buying all these Kiss dolls. And I have so many multiples, because what I was doing was I was buying them cheap and putting sets together. Like, okay, I'm missing this piece of this one, so I'll buy this whole collection. And that's usually what collectors do. Just to get one piece, they'll buy entire collection. So I got boxes of Kiss figurines, pieces, this almost full sets sitting in a closet just so I could have one shelving unit full of complete Kiss. Of course, they're the open ones, and then I have ones that are in packaging.
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
so
Got to do that.
Yeah,
got to do that. And listen, man, now that Ace is gone, those Ace ones may be worth a little. Like I have, I collect Funko Pops, and I have an Ace Frehley one, and I'm like, that could possibly be money if I want to look into it.
It could be. And listen, of all this, there's 18 minutes wasted on campy TV shows, toy collecting, you name it.
But we did talk about Kiss and Prince.
We did,
so
yeah. So I guess we filled in some music stuff. I don't know. Let me go back to saying, anything going on with you?
No, man, no. I keep saying it every week. I'm still out here trying to, complete some bands, and it's hard. We've said it a million times. We've said it past 2 seasons especially. But I keep searching. I have the...
you have the chutzpah to keep going.
That's right. Just to keep going and hope that the bad luck breaks. And so we'll see, man. We'll see. I do have one or two people on the docket. We'll just keep moving forward, man.
Listen, man, if I didn't have bad luck, I wouldn't have any luck at all.
That's absolutely the truth, man. That's absolutely the truth. But as you know, it gets harder. We're getting older, and music is not people's number one thing anymore. Outside of home, family, and work, and music just isn't what people, I don't want to say into, because that's not true, but
they're into it. They're just not clamoring the same way. I mean, even musicians, like everything's become, like we talked about this before, everything's become a way to make money, not just to do it for the sake of doing or the passion of doing or for the art of it or for the love of it. You're doing it to make money. We had talked about before we went on air, as of COVID, like everybody started doing podcasts. Like podcasts went out the roof. Everybody started uploading music because they could. Because it is easier today.
Yes.
And with the rise of AI, I was just talking to some people. They asked me, like, hey, you're in the music. Did you ever hear of this Sono AI? I go, yeah, absolutely. He goes, oh, we were fooling around with it at the office, and we were amazed that we were making songs. And he goes, I wanted these keywords put in, because they were making fun of stuff in the office, and what you could do with the free account. And he goes, and all you had to do was upgrade to an $8 a month account and what you could do and so on and so forth. And I tried to explain to him, like, yeah, I mean, it is cool. The technology's unbelievable, but here's what it's doing on the negative side. He didn't get that. Per se, simply because he's not a musician. They're enjoying it for what it is because they have no aspiration, but he was amazed at the quality of it.
Right.
But I did learn, because he actually did some research of what the $8 would give him and so on and so forth. Even if you get the free version, even if you get the $8 version, and then there's another version after that, in the small print, there is the possibility that even if you pay the money and use it commercially, that doesn't stop the app from reusing what they've given to you to somebody else. So that means a melody could be used again, a chord progression, because there's only so much that you could do. Vocal lines, things like that, even word segments. But you put these prompts in, they'll fill them gaps with other stuff. So it's not 100% all original. It's never really is 100% all original, right? Because they scour the internet and they take all this information and they put it together. It's kind of like a facilitator. I get it. Yeah. Again, I told him, I says, the information is what's available to you, and how it's done in the technology is just unbelievable. And just in 6 months, just in a year, how much it's increased itself, the ability. Yeah. It's just an amazing thing. I mean, like, you had sent me that thing, and it's passé now, but at the time of the show, Bandcamp has issued, like, it won't upload AI stuff. Yeah. So I guess there's a way that they're having a blockchain system already put in place. Because I guess, again, I don't know anything about it, but there has to be some kind of coding, there has to be some kind of signature, some kind of sine wave or something like that that distinguishes AI music from regular music, whatever the hell that means. But at the same time, because they're both in the digital world, but I guess there's a difference between the ones and zeros that are being recorded in the home studios and the DAWs as opposed to what AI is doing. I don't know anything about that. I just made that up because it sounded right, but I don't know.
No, but you're right, because how do you target that with Bandcamp? Like, how do you know what's AI and what's not? So there has to be some kind of deep coding that we're not aware of.
Right.
That these computer geniuses.
Right, and all that means is then they're going to, somebody on the other end will come up with a way to create a blockade for that, right?
Of course.
But like you had mentioned several shows back that, Spotify did a washing of AI type or fake music or something like that, right? It fell into a larger category. Yeah. So they must have some blockchain system put for validating, verifying, whatever. So there is something. There has to be something. We've talked about it. I've experimented just a little bit with it. Like last season, I think it was last season, we talked about it.
Yeah, it was.
Simply because I didn't want to keep talking about something that I didn't have 100% experience in. Even though my experience probably isn't a complete 100%, because I'm not interested in it. Like, I don't want to go that route. I'm still trying to better myself as a traditional artist. And it is getting harder for a lot of different reasons. I mean, I know we didn't talk about it, but again, this is passé as well. Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath discussing that he used AI vocals for the creation of his new album. And it got a little bit of press for about a week, and then it just disappeared. There were people up in arms. I seen some posting, and I seen some bigger name people talking like how this is not the right, this shouldn't be done. Because stars at the top chain probably embrace technology because they have to way sooner than we do, because they can afford to if they need to keep themselves on top.
Right.
Like, oh, this isn't right because this is only going to make things worse for artists that are out there, so on and so forth. Listen, they're 100% right, but, I mean, how do you stop it? What do you do? How do you stop it? You can't. Because if that was the case, it would have stopped 2 years ago. In 2 years, it's everywhere.
Yes. I think the thing that bothers me the most, going back to that Geezer Butler thing, is in that article, he states that, he was using AI to figure out melodies and because he didn't have a singer. That bothers me the most. You're Geezer Butler. You mean to tell me you can't find a singer? You could legit argue that he is the godfather of heavy metal, one of the greatest rhythms, bass sounds ever on the planet. And you're going to sit here and tell me that you use AI because you don't have a singer? You could literally pick up your phone and call anybody, and they're flying to England to do vocals. I mean,
and they'll pay for it themselves.
Dude, come on, brother. Like, that just... And that's the part that irritated me most. Not only did he use AI, not only was he kind of promoting that he used AI, he was telling me that he used AI because he didn't have a singer. Really
sounds more like a convenience and probably not wanting to pay out the way I look at it. That's just me.
100%.
I'm just... If you take it at our level and, like, you're struggling to find members to move forward and you have material, this is a guy, like you said, basically wrote the songs that kicked off heavy metal. And he can't find... Tony Iommi kept Black Sabbath alive with everybody, anybody that showed up at the door. Okay, you're in Black Sabbath. You're in Black Sabbath. Bring your friends. They're in Black Sabbath throughout that whole, you know what I mean? So
I don't understand that whole thing.
At the same time, it's expected now, man. It's expected now because what are you going to do if it's staring at you in the face? And for those... Let's take it down a couple notches. Let's say it was legitimate. He couldn't find a singer. Nobody wanted to work with Geezer Butler. Not one person. He stopped showering, doesn't use deodorant. He changed his eating habits, so he has a bowel problem now. Whatever. I don't know. It could be any reasons. And again, that's just joking. Maybe he does have a bowel problem. I don't know. I know half the time I do, so I mean, I can attest to it. But let's take it down to if he can't find people to work with, and he's probably going to pay them, what hope do we have in a creative process? Because here's the thing, and there's a distinction, right? And I've been seeing this lately online, that musicians need to know the distinction. Okay, all right. That if you're answering an ad and it's talking about a hired gun, you're going to be paid. If it's not, then it's a creative project. And a lot of these guys are poo-pooing creative projects. That means there is no pay. Well, man, I mean, in the world that I came up through, that's what we did. And I mean, just because we didn't, or I say for me, didn't have the opportunity that some of these other people did, or I didn't play the game the right way, or, whatever, that I never became a hired gun, means that my creative process or the creative endeavors that I do are less than. I don't buy that. I mean, you want to be a hired gun, you be a hired gun. There's that movie out about hired guns.
Oh, that documentary,
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
so good.
It's a fantastic one. But all those guys, I mean, think about it. They didn't have a lot of nice things to say.
Right. Right.
What's his name? Phil X? Is that his name? The guitar
Yes.
player?
I think.
I mean, listen,
Yeah, I think so.
he's
Yeah,
had a
yeah.
fantastic run of right. Like, I mean, he
Yeah.
jumps to replace Richie Sambora.
Right.
The truth of the matter is, people still have Richie Sambora on their brain. He's a phenomenal guitar player. Oh my God, the guy's incredible.
Great guitar player. Great guitar player.
Anyway, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. You like to jump around. Listen, some guys love that, and I get it. And maybe that was the way to go. I know a couple guys that do that, but they're really good music. I mean, they're guys that can basically, that's how they crafted themselves. They can play multiple styles. They can just get themselves to fit in. I'm not that guy. You know what I mean? I'm a one-trick pony, 3 chords. So I learned early on, you know what, Mick? You ain't much of a looker, you ain't very tall, and you can't play that well, so you better write your own stuff. That's and it's worked for me, so there you go.
I get it, bro. I'm the same way. I'm not that guy. I wish I could be, especially in this time in my life, but I just can't. I can't.
Yeah, I mean, my
I'm
wife
not
tells
that
me
guy.
all the time, why don't you just go, it's less stress, and all. I go, yeah, I don't think I can do it. I mean, I'm being honest. At this age, you should be honest. It's like, I don't think I could do it. I don't think I can keep my mouth shut long enough, because one of the first things I would say is, what are you doing? or how about this one? Why would you do that? Have you ever listened to my show? All right, Mick. Thanks a lot. We'll call you.
We're sorry. The number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
Don't call us. We'll call you.
Yeah,
The number you have dialed.
a lot of that. Yeah, but I brought donuts. Leave the donuts. Thanks, bud. Yeah. All right.
So true, bro.
Yeah,
So
it's-
true.
listen,
my wife
it's-
says the same
yeah.
thing to me, and I'm like, I just can't do it.
And here we are having a podcast to talk about it. So that's our
right.
therapy. That's our therapy.
It is our therapy. You're right. 100% our therapy.
All right, you ready to get into the show?
Let's do it.
The real show.
The real
What people
show.
tuned in
Let's
for.
do it.
Okay, so
Let's do it.
here we go. The topic of today's show is never meet your heroes. Bad encounters with the stars, or good encounters with the stars. Never meet your heroes. What do you think, buddy? Have you ever had that type of experience?
You know, I was telling you kind of off the air before we started today. I had thinking about it since we have the list of topics that we're going to talk about for the season. I've always gone back to that one, and I just don't ever remember having a bad experience. I've had experiences where I go, what? Like pretty recently, you know, opening for a national, and the national telling me that I have to sell my band t-shirts the same price as theirs. You know, that kind of thing. You're opening for a national and they're not giving us room to sell our merch, because I've had that happen also, but you know, within the past 6-7 years, I opened for a national and they wouldn't even let us sell our merch. There was nowhere to put our merch. And then, you know, the normal, you know, opening local band gets 25 minutes or 20 minutes. And, you know, which I never understood that either, you know, because a lot of nationals just treat local bands like trash. I mean, for lack of a better word, like, I mean, that had more experience that way, where nationals, it hasn't been every time, but a good portion of the time I've opened up for nationals and they literally throw scraps to the local. And they don't realize that maybe the local sold the most tickets. I think I said the story to you on a show, I'm pretty sure I did, where there was one time, one of my bands, I outsold the National. And the National was super excited that they were coming through Philly, and the singer went out, he's no longer with us, but the singer went out and looked at the line and was like, oh my God, look at all these people. Well, we oversold by hand. We got X amount of tickets, and we went around back in the day where you could do that, and we sold tickets, and we oversold the National. And the National was pretty shocked when they came out and realized that half the crowd was gone because we had already played. So those kind of experiences I have definitely had in terms of nationals not really treating locals with any kind of respect. I'm sure you have stories of that. I'm sure you have stories of that. But in terms of like meeting heroes, I've never had a really bad experience. I will say one experience, because I love telling the story because it really shaped the kind of artist that I became. And I had the pleasure of telling this singer that many, many years later. I had the pleasure of, it was in the early 90s, there was I don't know if you remember, Mick, there was like a VHS collection. It was called Hard and Heavy. And it was like a video magazine.
Right.
I think Rip Magazine was involved in it, or Metal Edge. Maybe it was Metal Edge. Anyway, they had this special VHS tape that came out, and it was all thrash bands. Of course, I loved it. At the time, and I'm just going to call it out because he deserves the respect, Exodus's Impact is Eminent was out, and that was around 90, 91. And they came through Philly. I can close my eyes and still see this interaction. And I remember seeing Steve Zetro, the singer for Exodus at the time, who, if you know anything about me, you know he's one of my all-time favorites, one of my idols. He was on the corner of 10th and Arch Street in Philadelphia talking to a bunch of fans. The fans had pretty much entered the building at that point. Place was packed because, it was 91, a metal show. It was like Exodus, I think Suicidal Tendencies, and it might have been another act. And he was out on the corner, and I said, you know what? I am going to sacrifice my trying to get a good spot at the venue because I want to say hello. So I walked up over to him, and he was talking to, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 young people at that point. And they were just talking, I don't want to say dumb stuff, but they weren't moving the needle, so to speak. It was just fluff. So I said my hello. He said hello. And I said, Steve, do you mind if I ask you a question? He said, no. And I happened to say, I have the Heart and Heavy VHS. I said, in your experience, what has that done for you and the new record in terms of exposure, whatever? Bro, he literally stopped talking to everybody else, turned his back, and him and I had like a 25-minute conversation on the corner of 10th and Arch Street. Like, it got to the point where he was like, bro, I gotta go. Like, I gotta go. They were playing. It was an experience, man, that I will never, ever forget. And from that moment, I said to myself, if I ever get to, 91, I was 21 years old. I said, if I ever get to his point in my career, because I hadn't at that point, then I will be exactly what he was to me. Because it made such an impact on me that I have never forgotten it to this day. And I had the pleasure of telling him that, I guess, not many years ago. I guess when he got on social media, I had messaged him, and he could have messaged me back. It could have been his wife. I don't know. It wasn't a long thank you, but it was, oh my God, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate the kind words, and hope to see you out there, on tour again, whatever the case may be. But that interaction is one that I have never forgotten, and it really kind of shaped me in my way of thinking when it comes to talking to quote unquote fans, or like you would said earlier in the show, that guys like you and I, do we have fans? Do we have supporters? Whatever that gray area is, I always said I am going to always remember that experience. And anytime I've ever spoken to a fan, especially overseas, that I would always give that kind of time if I could. I've never forgotten it, and I always have. Always. I always remember that moment because it really kind of shaped the way I think about things. And because he didn't do that. Now, it was the 90s, so thrash metal was kind of on its downfall, but he was still who he was, and Exodus was still who they were. And to me, it was just a really, really pleasant experience that I will never forget.
You are listening to the Cosmick Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
I've had good and bad. And like you said, there's been multiple shows that the headliner has not given the time of day, or was probably pretty rude to the support acts. And I get it to some degree, especially when, you got 5, 6 opening acts and you're not really involved in that. I've experienced where we weren't allowed to put up merch, or we had to tear down our merch before the headliner came on. We weren't allowed to sell during. People wanted a percentage of our merch because, they felt that they were bringing in the crowd type of thing. That's not necessarily the case, like you had mentioned, because oftentimes, especially more now than ever, all your opening acts are selling tickets.
Yeah.
Whether that outsells or statistically is higher than what's sold, say, online or at the door. You figure if you have 4 or 5 bands and they each got to sell, and this is a low number, like take 25 tickets a piece, and they're covering them regardless. You got 100 and some tickets there. Because a lot of your venues today, a couple hundred people tops, because nobody's playing. Because if they're playing these theaters, or they're, where there's, say, maybe 800 to 1,000 people, or you're playing something much larger where now you're into 3,000 plus, well, that's a whole different ball game. But we're talking about those small venues, those little larger than bar type event areas. You're talking a couple hundred people. The fire code, that's about, you're not packing in thousands of people. It doesn't happen like that. So chances are most of those tickets are being moved by those opening bands. And I think we
100%.
talked about this on another show, that I can count with this band in the 15 years that we've been around, maybe on one hand, how many of the headlining acts actually ever thanked the opening bands. And then I can maybe count on just a couple fingers, if I'm lucky, how many times my band was actually mentioned by the... and that's always an exciting thing. There's that connection, because at least they're somewhat aware of you. Even if they just read it right before they got on stage, or somebody wrote it on the back of their hand, like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But as a player, right, as a support band, two of my greatest encounters was with Steve Grimmett from Grim Reaper. We had played with them a number of times. I remember the first time that we played with him, I found myself, I'm not even sure how this happened, but I found myself backstage just with him eating pizza. And I'm talking to him about his albums and things of that nature. And we had such a cool conversation. And he was just being just regular. Unfortunately, he goes, I can't even sell those albums. I don't have them. They're not mine. That kind of thing. The label owns them, these kind of things. I learned about some good travel luggage to put your rack systems in that you can carry on the thing. And shortly after that, I bought what he told me to buy. And I use it when I do go, like, say, to the West Coast, or I'm not driving. If I'm flying, I have this rack system. I remember years had passed, and we played again with him. And I was hesitant to go up to him. We had worked with him, and I wasn't sure if he put all that together. And I went up and I introduced myself. Oh, guys, I remember you, Mick. And I was like, it's an amazing thing, because these are guys that see thousands and thousands of people throughout their year, overseas, wherever. And the fact that a name and a face is always an amazing thing. Yeah. So the other time is we opened up for the Bullet Boys. And I remember my bass player connected with their bass player, and he needed his bass adjusted, and they didn't have a crew. They were using the in-house crew, but there was nobody to... My bass player volunteered me. And I go, what are you doing? I go, if I screw his bass up, he can't play. I go, you know what kind of stress that is? He goes, no, you got to do it. He goes, you'll be fine. So I'm back there, I'm adjusting this guy. I'm working on a bass. And the guy loved it. I mean, thank God. I said, listen, usually you got to let these things sit, after you do the neck and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be all right. Thankfully it was. But at the end of the show, we connected with Mark, the singer. And he was so, for a lack of a better word, lovable, that it actually threw us off. He hugged us. He kissed us. God bless us. We're talking for 20, 25 minutes about, I'm not even sure what we were talking about. I mean, I can't tell you how many times he hugged us, and thank you for... We also let them use some of our equipment. That's how they were traveling very light. So it was amazing. A couple years later, we did another show with Bullet Boys. They had definitely gained some traction in those years. So I had picked up a single of Smooth Up In Ya that had the picture of the band, I mean, from whatever year that was, 88 or something like that, right? Still had the sheet cover. And so I'm unloading my stuff in the back of the building, bringing my stuff in, and there's Mark. And he's talking with some other people, just like by the dumpster area or something. So I brought my stuff in, and I said, I'm gonna pop in over there. So I'm standing there, and this is not me. This is not normally me, because I'm not that social of a guy. But I said, I want to get this thing signed. This is really cool. It's a rarity. I go, hey, excuse me, Mark. He goes, hey, how you doing, man? It's been a couple years. And I was like, holy crap. He's holding up this leather. He goes, what do you think of this leather jacket? He goes, this is pretty, and I go, man, that's a really nice leather jacket. And he's trying to put it on me. And I'm like, oh my God, so we're talking and stuff. And I said, listen, I don't want to hold you up. I know you got stuff to do here. I go, but I want you to sign this single if you're, he's like, oh my God, where'd you get this? And you know how, I don't know if these guys see all this stuff that's out there for.
They definitely do not.
Yeah. Yes. So it makes you feel good. I guess it's an ego thing, but at the same time, that, because you're supporting these guys not only as a fan, but as, as a player, and it's kind of exciting. I mean, I've had some bad things. We had a bit of a run-in with Saxon. Actually, the whole band was great. The drummer was not very friendly at all. I know we probably shouldn't be using names, but I doubt that they're ever going to come back to America at this point. But we had opened up for them, and Biff was great. You know, we're backstage chatting with him. I must have had like 16 albums for him to sign. I just kept passing him around like pies, and we're just talking. And he's having a good time, you know. The bass player at that time, he goes, I wasn't even in the band. I go, just sign it, man. It's all right. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Just sign it. But the drummer, he just would not give us the time of day because they had a meet and greet. He was like, well, I got people paying for it. I'm not doing it, you know. And I was like, well, yeah, but we're not. I understand that, but I'm backstage with you. We're about to go on right before you type of thing, right?
Right.
And unfortunately, same thing happened with Stryper, and I was so bummed out.
I know, right? Because that's your band.
Yeah, we were direct support. We were actually called to do that show. Dude, I was so... I don't even think they got out all the turn. I was like, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, we'll do it.
That's a great show, too. Was that the one I was
that was the one
right?
you were at. That place was packed. That was packed. But I literally had Oz Fox holler at me because we were outside, you know, backstage. Everybody was outside still loading in gear and stuff like that. And those guys were standing out there, and some people came over, and they're talking. So I said to my guys, I says, listen, let me get this out of the way now because I know tonight's going to be a frenzy of a night. Real quick, digress. That was one of the best merch nights I've ever had. It was just I remember that. I mean, Christians like to spend. So I figured, well, let me grab my album. I'll go over there. And he starts flipping out on me like, you know, hey, man, we're not supposed to be. This is not. There's a meet and greet inside. And I look at him and I go, seriously, dude? I go, really? So I left. His tune changed later in the night, I think after they realized that we were direct support band. So he was super friendly to me, signed everything that I put in front of him, gave me a handshake and a thumbs up and stuff like that. And I got to talk to Michael Sweet as well. I asked him how he kept his voice in such fine... Because, I mean, my God, the guy doesn't seem to age with his voice.
No,
Still hitting
he really
the notes.
doesn't.
He's an amazing guitar player, amazing singer. Probably an underrated and all that because of what people
100%.
consider Stryper and the Christian metal. An incredible band. I mean, incredible players. His voice, man, if I could just even do something remotely, but...
Let me ask you a question. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you, but does that change your opinion?
Yes.
And love for Stryper?
I did waver in the years that followed. I still follow them. I did stop following them individually. I still follow the band. I do keep up with some things, but definitely not the same as I did before. It's kind of a bummer. Your feelings are hurt. I understand that these guys do what they do. There has to be some boundaries. And I thought that being a musician myself that I was keeping them. I'll give you another quick example based on my band's experience. I had this experience with a member. We were on the road, we were doing a show, and we had all these people conversating with us, and we were signing things and all that kind of stuff. You know, because I mean, bands do that. I mean, it doesn't mean that we're the best or whatever. It just happens sometimes. And this member got rude and was taking shots at this person. The person definitely got offended. I took him to the side and I said, you shouldn't have, what difference is it? I said, listen, the difference is you and me, we know where we came from and who we are. We're a bunch of idiots. These people, they see us online and then we're traveling, then all of a sudden we're in their town playing. They look at us as somebody different. Yeah, we know the truth. We're nobodies, right? We're nobodies. We barely have enough to scrape for the bad hotel we're going to stay in. And he was like, wow, I never really realized that. And I'm not a social person, but I always try to be as friendly, thank them. And because I'm not super social, I usually keep it short so I don't over-engage and then make a bigger idiot of myself. But always friendly. And I think that's an opportunity. Now, again, I'm not at the same level as Stryper or Saxon. I get it. These guys are probably inundated with a lot of lunacy. Totally understand that. But for us as independents, indie artists, I think it's important to keep some level of engagement. You keep it high level, but there will be times that, you know, you'll probably break that form just a little bit. Like your story with the VHS tape and all, you know, because we are human and there is that connection that we need. And I think that oftentimes that gets lost. It gets lost because people do have reservations about allowing themselves to be vulnerable, and that could be just simple conversation.
Yeah. And, in this day and age of, the VIP meet and greets, it's really frustrating. Again, I understand it. I do understand, you don't want to sign anything because people are paying for it. I totally understand. But to act like that is kind of, there's other ways to handle it, right? Like there's other ways. I will say this before we wrap up. When I'm about to meet people, even if they're like in indie movies, I am a sweaty fanboy. Like I'm sweating, I'm nervous.
Me too.
I'm all the things. I got to see Bullet Boys a number of years ago open up for Jack Russell's Great White here in Philly. Mark was hanging out front. He wasn't really being bothered by people. People really weren't. I don't even know if they noticed who he was, whoever. So I say to my wife, I go, oh my God, there's Mark. And this is the only time in our entire relationship she ever said, listen, we both know the stories. We both hear he's a complete butthead. There's a lot of bad things said about him. She said, just don't get your hopes up because we don't know what his reaction is going to be. And I'm like, I know, but I want to meet him. He's one of my favorite singers, like growing up in that era. So I said, I'm just going to do it. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, whatever. So I go over. He couldn't have been nicer.
Yeah.
The nicest guy, man. Said hi to my wife. We took a quick picture. I didn't bother him that much. I just wanted to say, hey, thank you so much. You sound amazing. And I'm that guy that doesn't always want to talk about the first record. Like I try to find those deep tracks. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I wanted to talk to him about Zaza. It was like an album they put out in the 90s. It didn't do very well. And I want to tell him how much I love the album and talked about the song. And real quick, it was very quick interaction. He couldn't have been nicer. And then like an hour later, my wife and I walk up to Jim Steaks to get a sandwich, and he was in line with, I don't know, a couple girls, whoever. I just said hi to him again, and he was like, what's up, man? And I was like, see, you just never know. You never know. And obviously you had, again, we've heard all these stories about this man, and you've had two great experiences.
Yeah.
So you never know.
Yeah,
you just never know.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, I'm usually that. I mean, like, you were there when I met KK. I was fumbling around, and I had to have another rock star give me a pen, get his name. So I don't know. And same thing when I kind of was in the presence of Paul Stanley. I kind of lost it. And I think he seen it and kind of just like did a beeline the other way because I didn't know what I was like, oh my God, securities. I mean, so it happens, man. Even after all these years, even being an aging adult, you get all like 12 years old again. So
I love it, man.
There's good and bad. I mean, being a musician, you have some interactions on a different level. Sometimes it's great. I've had some other great interactions. I mean, I met Ripper Owens and he was great. We talked, I don't know, about 15 minutes or so, and there's been other artists, Janet Gardner from Vixen. We were backstage with them, and we were talking about the music, and she was really friendly. I mean, I could go on and on, but I always tried to look at it as like, especially as an independent artist, an in the trench artist, you got to be grateful. You got to make the most of it. You don't have to go overboard, because if you don't go overboard, you're setting up the boundaries. And that's it. I mean, and sometimes you don't have to say it. It's just the way you present it, way you go about it. What do you think, bud? You got anything else you want to add?
No, man, that's it. I think that being kind and giving someone even just a little bit of time of day means so much to people, especially when they're fans of you or your art, like whatever it may be, whatever art you're into, whatever you create. If there's someone that legit enjoys it, it does nothing to take a minute or two just to say thank you and a quick picture or autograph. And you don't know what that's going to lead to. You don't know if you're going to make a mark on someone's life that sends them into a creative direction, and then they do the same thing, and it just kind of goes on and on and on, that whole circle. And I think it's really cool. I think it's a cool thing when you can be kind to someone that really enjoys what you do.
Absolutely. Being friendly goes a long way. If you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmickvoice.com. Step into the Cosmickverse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmick Voice. If you have a question, a topic idea, or something you want us to address, just contact us through our Facebook page at The Cosmick Voice. You can listen to The Cosmick Voice at Spotify, Breaker, Apple, Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, and at thecosmicview.com. Check us out on Facebook at The Cosmick Voice.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Mick and I would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes of The Cosmic Voice. And you can get in touch with us through thecosmicvoice.com and, of course, all of the Cosmic Voice social medias. Take care and be safe.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.